oversee government's response to this tragedy. The National Joint Operational and Intelligence Structure, the NET joints, were activated to coordinate various role players and lead technical planning for the identification as well as the repatriation of both the injured and the deceased South Africans. On the 22nd of September 2014, 25 injured South Africans were successfully repatriated back to our home. All of them have been discharged from hospital and have been reunited with their families. Following a rigorous victim identification process, the mortal remains of 74 deceased South Africans were repatriated back to South Africa. Their respective families received their mortal remains during the official reception ceremony on the 16th November 2014. At that time, 11 of the South African mortal remains had not as yet been positively identified and therefore could not be repatriated. Our government, your government, has been working tirelessly with the Nigerian government in the past 2 months to try and positively identify the mortal remains of the remaining 11 South Africans. Fresh samples were collected from the 11 families for further verification tests. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're announcing on the 2nd of February 2015 that the South African National Defence Force C-180 aircraft with a repatriation team is departing for Lagos, Nigeria, to bring the mortal remains of those who have been positively identified. The long wait of these families, friends, and communities, hopefully, is finally over. The 6-130 aircraft is expected back at the Air Force Base Waterkloof on the evening of Wednesday, 4th February 2014. Those mortal remains will be transported from the Air Force Base Waterkloof to the nearest government mortuaries. Government social workers are in continuous communication with all families about the specific details thereof. Our government wants to encourage anyone in need to make use of our freely available grief counseling services. They should call the Social Development Department's toll-free number on 0800 428 428, 0800 428 428. They can alternatively send "Please call me" text message on *120 *7867 hash, *120 *7867 hash, and a professional counselor will call them back. Once again, we thank all South Africans for their support, for their patience since this dark cloud befell our nation over 4 months ago. Our government expresses its appreciation to the Nigerian authorities for the cooperation accorded to us during the identification and repatriation of injured and deceased South Africans. All this work was done in a professional, in a cordial manner due to that assistance and support. Our government also wishes to extend its appreciation to President Zuma for his leadership during this crisis, as well as to members of the Inter-Ministerial Committee for their guidance and their support. We say thanks to you as members of the media for your assistance as well in getting information out there to the public. It was through your support that we were able to keep South Africans updated on the work that government was doing to bring home their fellow compatriots. Lastly, would like to say a special word of thanks to all members of the National Operational Intelligence Structure, the NET joints, for the excellent manner in which they dealt with this tragic manner. We all walk taller. We stand prouder today as South Africans because of the professionalism, because of the meticulous dedication to duty that has been demonstrated by the net joints since the incident occurred in September 2014. It was only through everyone working together that we're able to realize the commitment made by our government to repatriate South Africans back home. I thank you.
Thanks, Minister. I think at this point we'll take questions. I'll start with Cape Town. I can see there's a hand there.
Yes, we've got 2 hands in Cape Town, says Pumla. 3 in actual fact.
Thanks.
We'll start with Paul.
Good morning, Minister. Paul Vecchiotto, Business Day. How many bodies will the C-130 be transporting back? Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Minister. Babalo here from Independent Newspapers. Just checking, the families of some of the deceased have set up websites, I think, and they are planning on a civil suit, I think, against the church. Is this not a concern of the South African government? You're not involved in that at all. Is it entirely up to them? I'm just checking whether government will assist in any way, or will you leave it for them to deal with? Thank you.
The last one, Marianne.
Hi, Marianne Merton from my colleague Babalo. Just wanting to double check on that. Now that the remains are returned, is the South African government, through its ambassador, High Commissioner, keeping an eye out on the legal proceedings that are taking place in relation to the church building collapse? Thanks.
That will be all in this round, says Pumla.
Thanks, Mzo.
As we mentioned in our statement, our repatriation team, led by the net joints, is departing this afternoon at 3 p.m. for Lagos, where they'll be meeting with the Nigerian authorities for the purposes of the repatriation. When they land later this evening or tomorrow, we'll know precisely how many South Africans will be repatriated. We should also recall that this is not a process that is led by the South African government. All the verification and the testing is done by the Nigerian authorities. Ours is to provide the necessary information in order to ensure that that process is finally concluded. So tomorrow we'll be knowing with certainty how many will be repatriated. On the issues of families, as you know, families have a right where they feel so to institute civil proceedings against anybody who might be involved for the death of their loved ones. So it is a matter for those families and the loved ones. The government on its own will not be in a position to be party to that process, because those are regarded as private matters. Yes, indeed, because on the last question, our Consular General, especially in Lagos, the state of Lagos, is keeping a watching brief on the developments that are taking place, both on the coroner's investigation that is taking place there in Nigeria.
Thanks, Minister. Yes, that's the first one. Yes, we can ask.
Thank you very much, Pumla. Minister, just 2 very quick questions. Firstly, have we ascertained, as the government of South Africa, what actually led to this such a long, prolonged delay in the repatriation of the bodies? What was the reason exactly? And you say that you don't know how many bodies will be repatriated. So, I mean, have family members been informed at all? Will they just come to the Waterkloof Air Force Base and wait? What's the logistics in terms of actually informing those affected families that yes, indeed, we have those remains of their loved ones, or is it just a blanket call to say we are going to repatriate bodies, but we don't know exactly who, so just come and see if your loved one is among those people? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Marijke Vermaak from Jacaranda FM. It kind of falls in with her question about the time that's passed. Surely the bodies must be in a fairly, I don't know how to put it, bad condition. Is this the reason that has caused this delay? Will the families then, when they come and claim the bodies, will they then have access to them? Will they see the bodies? How will they be identifying them? Thanks.
Thank you. I think there was another hand at the back, or you covered? Okay. All right, Minister.
What led to the delay? I think it's common cause that when the incident happened in Lagos, it took, if my memory serves me well, almost 3 days before the rescue authorities went into sight. That's point number one. Point number two, the climatic conditions in Nigeria. Point number three, it was not only 81 South Africans who perished, I think there were about 115 who perished. So the process of even identifying who amongst those 150 were South Africans took some time. So that's why this delay has happened. As I've said, our government is putting a supporting initiative to this process, because the whole process is led by the Nigerian government, in particular the state of Lagos. Have the families been informed? Our government is in continuous communication with all the families of the deceased. Even when we get the full briefing tomorrow from our Net Joints team in Nigeria, our team will be informing the South African families about the identities of the remaining ones. So the families from day one has been kept abreast of the developments, and even governments providing through the Department of Social Development counseling services. Access, of course, as you know, even in November, when the 74 mortal remains were brought back, the families took the mortal remains for private burial. So the same will happen when they arrive. They might actually arrive in the early hours of Thursday morning because of the time it takes from Lagos with a stopover in one African country before they land here, but I'm sure Pumla will indicate the exact time, probably 1 or 2 a.m. on Thursday morning, the 5th of November.
Thank you, Minister. The arrival we will be sending out a communique for those who are interested to come and be part of the arrival at about, I think Minister is correct, it's around 2 a.m. But I think we will only be knowing exactly the time at a later stage, but it is around 2 a.m. Thanks. If there aren't any question, I think we have come to the end of this briefing, and I think the Minister will brief when the plane arrives and be able to share with the South African nation the bodies that have been brought back to South Africa. Thank you.